Welcome everyone to another episode of the Brick Business Show, where we talk to Lego business owners and we talk shop about what it is that they are doing in their business. And today I'm super pumped to have Noah with me. And I've known Noah for a couple of years now, but super interesting that Noah's been able to achieve what he has done, because he's such a young age. Noah, he's 17 years old and is absolutely crushing it in the Lego game, Lego investing, selling used sets, and a handful of other things. So today, we're going to learn about Noah's journey so far as a Lego investor at such a young age, and how he's been able to achieve the things that he's already achieved. So Noah, good to have you here. Thank you for being here. Can you just give us a quick intro where you're at in, where you're located, how long you've been a Lego investor for?
All right. Thank you for having me, Shane. I'm from Miami Beach, Florida, and I've been investing for about 2 years. My first selling season was last year, Q4 of 2024. And I guess I'll just start with kind of how I started out. A lot of people in the group started without actually enjoying Lego, or they just kind of read one of those Wall Street articles about how Lego's doing better than gold right now. I started the opposite way, or the other more common way, which, as you can see by my background, I was very into Lego throughout my childhood, and I had a similar story to you, Shane, where I was looking at sets from my childhood and seeing how much they had grown since I had gotten them when I was a kid, and thought maybe there's some way that I can use that to. At first, it started with to buy more Lego. My original plan was just to have some of my budget go into investing so I could afford more Lego in my future. And as my business has grown, as I've started to do different things, getting onto larger platforms like Walmart has really helped me increase my volume. So it's gotten to a point where it's probably, like the way I'm going to afford my first car. Like it's gotten much further than just helping fund my hobbies. So I started out not on Amazon or Walmart or eBay or anything, but actually selling through Discord, through many different Discord servers. Mostly it started out with selling some of the minifigures that I would either get from conventions or had in my collection. And then eventually it got into selling custom minifigures. So from companies like Brickmania, the Minifig Co., a lot of those companies will produce minifigures for a very short amount of time. And once they're done producing, much like Lego, their values go up. So that was a very easy way for me to get my foot in, start building up capital to go into larger investing, because not only were they very easy to buy, they were also very easy to ship. Shipping one minifigure is a lot cheaper and easier than shipping, a massive modular building or a UCS set. So that's kind of how I started out, and that's how I got into my first buying year, which was 2023, with a good amount of capital to go into it. So once I'd gotten
to start the minifigure stuff, was that also 2023 or
that was 2021, 2022, kind of during that COVID time. I got more into Lego. I got more into music, so I wanted to have some money to fund buying guitars, pedals, stuff like that, and more Lego. So I kind of looked for ways that I could start making some money off of my hobby.
Dude, there's so much that you just said there that I want to unpack. But the first thing that I want to call out for anyone who's watching this, because we have had in the community of Lego investors, we've had a little bit of negativity around things like platforms to sell on, right? When I make a video and I talk about Amazon prices, I get some comments of people saying, why are we talking about Amazon? We can't sell on Amazon because Amazon have closed down to new sellers. You just mentioned two things that are very, important to call out. One is that you have pivoted to selling on Walmart, which we're going to talk about, but also that you started out selling with Discord. And I just love the creativity, right? I love the fact that you figured out avenues to sell that are not just the regular, let's just go to eBay because I can't do anything else. I'm not going to explore anything else. I'm going to just kind of have a victim mindset and just believe that eBay is my only option. When you literally sold on Discord and you sold minifigures that were expired or that were retiring or that were exclusive and unique, and found a little niche there. So that thinking outside the box is exactly what I think leads to people being super, super successful, and that ability to pivot and that ability to kind of say, I'm not just going to take the status quo here. I'm going to look for other alternatives and ways to do things. Selling on Discord is not one that I hear that often. So I'd love to double click into that and learn more about that. But before we get to that, so you started out as a Lego fan. You started looking for sets that you're interested in. But in 2001, you were what, like 14? How do you even at that age care about, flipping things on the internet or making money. I imagine that's quite different than what your friends were talking about in your conversations. I'm going to go and buy these minifigures and go sell them on Discord. So like, how did you even think to do that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely Lego is a hobby that, people tend to have either their dark ages or get out of when they're a teen. But I think my like the reason that my head was in this space where I could actually make money from it was a lot due to my dad. My dad's a big he does a lot of stuff with credit card points, miles, stuff like that, and him sharing all of those deals, all of those the benefits that he gets from that started. And he was also one of the people who always told me that to find something that I love to do and find a way to make money off of it. People often say like, don't do what you enjoy, do what you're good at or what you're talented at. And I think it's the opposite. I think it's a lot easier to become talented, to become good at something that you enjoy than to just follow whatever you seem to be a little better at. So I think he was a huge inspiration, and that, and also just I think just the Lego group was a huge inspiration. They kept putting out sets that I wanted, and there were things that I wanted that I couldn't afford. So I've tried to find ways where I could make my own money and get to a point where I have like a steady source of income that I can run while I'm in school. I've not like a job that I've set hours work for a boss, even though I've had jobs like that to help support my investing. I think having this program, having this, this business that I could run, when I have a free period in school, just looking at my Walmart accounts, working on my spreadsheets and stuff like that. I think it was a very free, and in some cases, in some ways easy, in some ways definitely not easy. It was definitely the best way that I could find to help support where I was at that point.
Absolutely. And then when you first started out, did you have a lot of savings to kind of start the business off with, or like how was that for you to be able to fund inventory in the beginning?
So like I said, when I was starting out in like 2021, I didn't have too much. Most of what I had at that point was going into that minifigure business, which, although was very, very profitable, my margins were very good on it. It was very time consuming, and also risky. A lot of that, like some stuff would work, some stuff wouldn't. I was fortunate to have most of that stuff work. After you build experience like any other market, you kind of get to know what works and what doesn't. But that was kind of how I accumulated my capital going into when I started investing in real sets. So going into 2023, I had about 5,000 built up from both the Lego minifigure stuff, from birthdays from many years before, and from the jobs I'd worked in that previous year. And yeah, going to the 2023 season, I had about 5,000.
That's when you started with Lego investing. And then from then until today, do you have any idea what you've grown that 5,000 into?
So the 5,000 that I spent, it was closer to 5,100 that I spent in 2023 in my 2023 purchases. I've sold about 80%, 90% of my inventory. And just looking at my Walmart seller overview, I've sold the gross profit that I've had, or the gross sales that I've had, is about 11,000. So take away shipping and fees and stuff, it's probably a little closer to 9. But that's pretty much how much I've had, and almost all of that went directly back into investing. Throughout the 2023-2024 year, I'd also been working. I've had many other sources of income, including continuing the minifigure stuff. So I think going into 2025, I have about 10,000 in inventory.
That's so great.
From stuff I bought last year.
It's been a pleasure to watch that journey. You're obviously part of our Ignite community, and we did an inventory review before, where you sent me your inventory, and I kind of made a video and I walked through my thoughts on the sets that you were picking and the prices you were paying for them, shared it with the group. And one thing that I remember being so impressed by when I looked at your inventory and your purchases was your ability to buy inventory at extremely low prices. Like your buy-in cost was really, really rock bottom. And, from being in this community, we get to see, a lot of what people are paying for inventory, and you can keep an ear to the ground. You can see that we have bots that tell us kind of some of those lower prices. And I knew that when I was looking at it, like, you were not overpaying for anything, and it was really, really impressive. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because when we're talking about you starting out Lego investing with 5K and turning it into somewhere in the region of 9K now, in 2 years. A lot of that is down to your strategy, right? It's not just because you were just picking whatever sets and hoping for the best. Like, you were picking the right sets, you were using resources to help you to do that, and then you were buying them at absolute rock bottom prices, which some of those skill sets take a couple of years for many people to learn. But you really focused on your education, you focused on learning the game, and then you executed, in my opinion, beautifully, to be able to almost double your money in 2 years. So can you talk us through how you approach that? What is your mentality on making sure you're getting the right price? Because I presume some of it comes down to when you have a limited budget and you've got this 5K, you don't want, you need to expand your margins as much as possible by buying at the absolute bottom price. Was that your thinking going into it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, starting with that moment of you reviewing that spreadsheet was definitely, a good indicator for me at kind of getting that positive feedback on what I was doing really helped motivate me to continue going into it further. And I think building onto that, just being in Ignite has helped me a lot. Especially just finding low prices, having the Bucky bot, having all those people sharing deals, like the huge amount of information that is shared was definitely one of the main catalysts for actually getting the train on the tracks, getting my investments moving. So I think starting with being able to find great deals through the bot that's in the Ignite server, through the members who had shared in the US deals chat and stuff, was definitely how I got maybe probably 75% of the good deals. And I'd also say, starting at my point, it was definitely harder to get to a point where I was like, this is definitely worth my time, because as you get more money, like the time spent into research doesn't tend to increase too much, but the amount that you're getting off of that research does. But then again, on the other side, having a lower amount definitely made it so I was able to get lower prices. People, some of the more skilled investors in the group have been investing for over a decade now, and they've gotten to a point where they're selling millions of dollars in inventory, and they're just not able to buy it all at the low prices that I'm able to get, because maybe I'm able to get 15 or 20 at this very low price. Like 15 or 20 is maybe 5% of what they want from that one SKU. So having the low prices definitely attests to me researching into what sets will do well and finding good deals throughout deal season, but also starting out at a lower point, you're able to get a lot more ROI per set, which is what I tell a lot of people who are starting out. Like, people will get discouraged by seeing all of the other investors in the group have it being so much larger than them, thinking that if I don't have this huge amount of capital, it's not going to be worth it for me. But really, having that smaller amount makes it a lot less risky and a lot easier to be able to keep all of your buy-ins very low, or as low as you can possibly get them. So I think just being able to buy low with the amount that you have was the main thing that allowed me to be so successful my first year, to have such a large profit margin.
Yeah, that's absolutely crucial. To like that mindset of, I'm smaller than the bigger fish, so I can go get prices that they can't get. That's exactly what I think everybody who's starting out needs to think like, because when you are a larger Lego investor and you have $1 million to invest, you give up a little bit of the return on investment for scale, because anyone that's at scale, they need things to be easy. They need to be able to get larger quantities, and in order to be able to do that, they will give up some of that return. And instead of being able to buy stuff at 40% off, they might be okay with smaller margins, with buying stuff at 30% off, because they can't get enough volume or quantities at the 40% off. When you're newer in the game and you have a smaller budget, even though 5K is not a small budget, it does allow you to have that flexibility. I say the same thing to the Brickheads theme, for example. Like, when you are at scale and you're selling $1 million a year, you don't really have the time and energy and resources to go out and get enough Brickhead sets, because they're a little bit harder to source at scale, at quantities. But when you're first starting out, that could be a theme that could really help you to maximize your return. Different advantages like that are what you have earlier on. But it's really inspiring that you identified that and you were like, you know what, I'm early in my game, I've got this amount of budget, I need to absolutely maximize my return on investment, so that I can capitalize on my advantage here of being newer in the game, and that's what you did. And so I remember seeing some of your purchase prices were like 40, at least 40% off in many cases, all across the board, and it was very consistent all across the board. All of your purchases were rock bottom and were extremely low. So what is your mentality around, I guess, um, not having FOMO and not having like, the urge to jump in when something is 25% off because you think you might be able to get it for 35% off? How do you avoid like the temptation of overpaying for inventory because everyone else is getting excited about it?
Well, I think the first thing that I try to remember is whether it's a group like Ignite or a larger group on Facebook or any of the other investing communities, they're a lot bigger fish in that community, in those communities, than you are. And remembering that, like, somebody saying, "Oh, I love this deal is great. I'm going to get 100 of them," and then for me to think, "Oh, this is where I should buy in," may not be the best idea, because maybe their goal is to get 1,000, so they're just filling up 10% of their inventory right now, whereas I would be getting all of it. So keeping that in perspective, and then just the experience of knowing when things are going to drop. But also that idea of waiting has caused me to lose out on some stuff too. Like, there's been sets where I've had an opportunity to get it at a low price, but I thought it would go lower, and it didn't go lower, or it went out of stock or something like that. And that's the trade-off. Like, sometimes you'll lose sets that you like just because you think it'll go lower. And an important thing to remember is, like, when you're looking at sets, when you're doing research, sometimes a set that you really, really like will get ruined because of a sale. It won't actually benefit from it. So, for example, I know one that is kind of brought up as a joke in the community is the Winnie the Pooh set, where especially Drew was very, very passionate about it and getting tons of them at like 75, 80. And then when Walmart had it at 50, it was a lot harder to get a solid profit off of what you bought at 80. So I think, but then again, if you look at the market for that set now, like, it's at 180 or something. So even if you bought it at 80, you're doing very well on it. So
Yeah.
remembering that even if you buy it a little higher than it may have gone, there's still a solid chance of still profiting off of it. And then also remembering that, FOMO is a part of any business, any market. You're always going to miss out on stuff. You just got to do the best with what information you have right now. If there's a set that was very similar to this one last year and you saw it go lower, maybe you can use that information to assume that this one might go lower. Whether you're right or not is, up to whoever decides sales, but that's information that you don't have. You can't predict the future. You can only predict off of the past, I guess.
100%. Absolutely. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about is really like about the marketplaces, because you have, like you said, you started selling on Discord, and then, I think you'd had some eBay, right? eBay was kind of where you really started with Lego investing, and then you've recently moved over to Walmart. So what has your journey been on finding the right place to sell your inventory? And how was Discord for you? And then how was eBay? And then how do you find Walmart today?
So I think every marketplace has its drawbacks and its benefits. So for Discord, the benefit is not having to deal with any fees. Oftentimes you can get people to pay with, PayPal friends and family. You're not paying anything in terms of fees, and you'll be able to profit a little more, but it's also very time consuming. You'll get, like Facebook Marketplace, you'll get people who ask for prices. They'll talk to you for a little bit, lowball you, and then never respond. So that's one thing that'll always happen. It's a little more time consuming when it comes to selling high volumes of stuff, but for when I'm selling like collectibles and stuff like that, it's still how I prefer to do it. And then once I started selling sets, I went to eBay, which has fewer of those problems with people offering stuff. It's the prices tend to be a little lower than they are on Amazon and Walmart, just because there's more sellers on eBay. It's a very open platform. And yeah, I wasn't able to get the volume that I wanted, especially once I had like my full sealed set inventory. I knew that eBay wasn't going to be the way that I was going to sell. So in about August of last year, I decided, okay, it's time to make the switch to Amazon. And I was about halfway through my ungating process when they cut off Lego for new sellers. So at that point, I was pretty worried. I started putting some more stuff on eBay. I knew there would be some way I could sell my stuff, but I had been banking on Amazon quite a bit. And when that cut off, I've immediately applied to Walmart because I knew that was the second best marketplace. There were members in Ignite who had already started into Walmart and Amazon, like joint selling. So I decided, if I'm going to sell my stuff this year, I might as well try to get some experience with this new platform, because I figured even if I wasn't going to get the prices or the volume I'd want, it would be experience selling on a larger platform that I could hopefully use if I was able to get on Amazon that for the next year. And honestly, my experience with Walmart has been great. Like I'm not even entirely sure that if I were able to get on Amazon, if I would switch over, just because, I've heard there's a solid amount of problems with the seller side of Amazon, whereas buying on Amazon is very easy. Getting support as a seller on Amazon can be quite difficult. So
Yeah.
For Walmart, I've not had that problem. I think customer service has been great even before they were aware of the influx of Lego sellers. Like I kind of got in before a lot of other people in the group got in. Before people were blocked from people who were able to sell on Amazon were blocked and had to transfer over in the middle of Q4 and a little before that rush and get used to the program before I started selling. So I've had, good statistics. I was able to sell all of the volume that I wanted very quickly. I had like $2,000-$3,000 days in November, December. I remember opening my phone in the middle of a Walmart on Black Friday just to check how soon I would need to get home to ship out all my packages for that day. And I saw like I had sold like 40 items for $2,000 in one day. So that was definitely the moment where I'm like, this might actually work, because the amount of money I was spending on Black Friday was actually, I was actually selling more on that day. So I think that was kind of the moment. I had that moment in the middle of the Walmart Lego aisle where I was like, this might actually work. And through Walmart, I've had good experiences with customer service. I had like a 3% return, which is return rate, which is pretty normal. I mean, my sample size is a little smaller. I sold about 150 units so far. So my sample size is a little smaller than most others, but I think 3% is a solid market rate, and that's a rate that I'm happy with. I've been getting good ratings, good reviews, and I've been very, very happy with my experience on Walmart. So
I love that. Yeah, the thing about the return rate, 3% is definitely in the range of expectation for Lego sets. When we sold other items, shoes and stuff like that, the return rates were 10%, and it's wild. So it always baffles me when people say, like, in the Lego community, they're like, oh, what about all those returns? It's like, returns for Lego are really not that high at all. Customers really don't care about box condition and stuff like they do for Funko Pops, like different things. And then, the return rates are really not that bad. I'm happy for you to have that experience on Black Friday in a Walmart, looking at your phone and seeing thousands of dollars of sales, because that is one of my absolute favorite things about what we do. Like when you are out somewhere and you pull up your phone and you see those sales, it's a real nice reminder of like the work that we're putting in is going to result in great success or great, outcomes if you do it the right way. Are you using, you mentioned you had to go home and fulfill the order. So I presume you're still self-fulfilling all of your stuff that you're selling on Walmart. You're not using their fulfillment services.
Yeah, I might venture into that this year because I have a lot more units than I did last year. But no, all of last year I was shipping out every order.
Gotcha. Okay. Dude, I'm just pumped for you. Like hearing that story, especially, that move over to Walmart so quickly. Like you mentioned, in the last couple of months, we've seen a lot of our members inside of our Ignite community start to sell on Walmart. The results and the experience sounds to be super positive from everybody. High prices, great seller support, good volume, so people are not having trouble moving stuff. But you got in pretty early, like, you were kind of pioneering some of that stuff. So it's great to hear your perspectives on it now. What resources have you used to get to where you are? You mentioned like spreadsheets, for example. Do you use kind of certain tools in your business? Like, how do you look at the things that you need to be able to operate your business effectively?
So since I started out pretty small, Inventory Lab wasn't an investment that I thought was worth it at this point. It might be something I'll go into once I get to a higher amount of sales, but most of the resources that I used were those that are available to everybody. I used Amazon, like the free version of Keepa for Amazon prices, keeping up with that. I used free Discord servers for deals and stuff. Google Sheets to track my inventory. Cheap label printers to ship my stuff. Like when my first year, I wasn't at the place where I was going to put like half of my profit into a new label printer, that like a very fancy Rollo printer, even though that's probably an investment that I will have to make. I think starting out with like, yeah, I know they're really nice. I've heard from a lot of people, but I'm happy with my $70 ID PRT whatever printer. It's good. I bought 2 of them, so now I'm like, I have the speed of a Rollo printer for like half the price. So until one of them breaks, I will probably try to stay off of it. But then again, I'm using like Rollo labels in these printers and stuff. So, and I'm contemplating putting like a little Rollo sticker on mine. But definitely, I tried to keep my costs as low as I could the first year, so I could reinvest as much as I could. And now that I have $10,000 of inventory to sell, I will probably go, especially if I continue doing fulfilled by myself, I'll probably invest in a new label printer. I mean, I've always been, buying the better boxes. I think boxes and tape are like the 2 worst places to cheap out on. I think like especially if you get a picture of an empty box arriving at someone's door, I think that's like, those are the 2 places where I was always trying to get the better items for. And honestly, my costs have been pretty low, and the resources I've been used haven't been too expensive, except for and then like I'd say that the most valuable one that I have is Ignite. I think if you're going to make an investment in your first year of Lego investing, Ignite is probably the best thing to put your money in. I think I have definitely saved probably 5 times the amount that I would have spent on Ignite in deals and stuff that I've gotten from that US Deals chat. The information I've gotten, sets that I didn't even consider until some up in a monthly meeting. I think Ignite has definitely paid for itself many times over. So that in combination with a lot of the free resources that are available, I've been able to build a pretty solid business off of.
Dude, I love it. I mean, I'm pumped that you're having such a great experience in Ignite, and I agree with you. Like the deals and prices that I've been able to get sets for make the membership and stuff a massive return. But the thing that I loved about what you said there was getting scrappy, right? That's the message that I hear, because again, when you're earlier in your journey, you need to figure out ways to save on your costs, be efficient and effective with what you invest and what you spend on your business. And you did that in multiple different places. You did it on being forceful about what you pay for inventory and making sure you're getting the right price. You did it on getting creative about the platforms that you sell on, making sure that you're, at first selling on Discord where you don't have fees, and then going to Walmart where sure you have fees, but you can start to get the scale that you're looking for, right? That's carefully thought out. But then also on the resources side of your business, and not, getting all the fancy tools early on, and, and making sure that you're kind of investing in the inventory at the start, and then growing your tools and growing your investments as your business grows. 100% agree with the way you're approaching it, and getting scrappy and finding interesting and creative ways to make sure you get the job done. Again, super inspiring. What do you think have been some of your biggest lessons when you look back the last couple of years of Lego investing, right? Because again, you learned how to get great prices. You learned how to buy the right sets. Like, I was also impressed by your set picks when I looked over your inventory that time. And now you've been learning how to sell on a new platform and what that all means. When you look back, like, what are some of the biggest things where you're like, oh, if I didn't learn that, I wouldn't quite have gotten to where I am right now?
I think starting out with one of the bigger things I've had to learn is timing, either the timing of when to sell, but also when to put your time into your business. A lot of people who struggle to get into it, you say that they don't have enough time. And, being a high school student and having a job and extracurriculars and stuff, I've struggled to find time in certain time periods, but finding ways to segment the year, like for example, up until June, I put like from the end of January until June, I put very little thought into my business besides what is needed to keep it running, to keep, paying whatever subscriptions I have, any inventory that I need to sell off to cover costs from the previous year. Like that's the limit of everything I do, just because testing season, I'm very, very busy with a lot of the other parts of my life. So being able to segment that period for, not having to worry about my business, which is another great thing about doing this, is you're able to take that like couple months of, not having to think about it. And then once June comes around and I'm done with school, that's when like investing lists start being a little more reliable. So that's when I'll start doing a lot of my research. That's probably the second lesson that I've learned, is like the numbers don't tend to lie. There's always some things that'll surprise, whether Lego produces a lot more of a set or a lot less. It's not information that you're able to get, but definitely doing your research into the sets that you're putting your money into. And yeah, I think research is another point. And then also you were saying that I've had good picks in the past, but I think I've also had a good share of bad ones. I think everyone tends to have those in their first couple of years, and the lessons that you've learned from that, whether, is this pick really bad, or was there just zombie stock until October? Like I think both knowing that, those picks are going to happen, and that's why you need to diversify your inventory. And then also realizing that hopefully you made the best pick that you could have at that point in time. You used the information that you had available, and if it didn't work out, at least you made that decision off of, information, rather than, making a bad decision off of just your gut. So learning that, that's why people say to diversify, even, diversifying away from Lego if something were ever to happen to it, like knowing that some stuff won't perform for reasons out of your control, is another thing. And then also not following the crowd. I know I already kind of touched on this when it came to when I would buy, not buying in when everybody else was, because, there's people who are much bigger than I am who are, buying 100 here, 100 there, like not just hearings that somebody says they're buying 100 of something, being like, oh, I should buy some of this too. If this guy is confident, then maybe I should be, because, everyone has a different business model. Everyone has different levels of experience or knowledge. The person that says they're buying 100 of this set on the random Discord or Facebook group that you're on might not be doing that. He could just be trying to troll you guys. So making sure that you do your own research and understanding that a lot of those sets that will have, a huge amount of people behind them, for example, the Endor Heroes Brickheads from last year, like those sets that have a huge amount of investors behind tend to have a lot more supply than other stuff would. Like, thinking about that same year, like I heard a lot of people talking about Endor Heroes, and I bought a good amount of them because I, looking at the data, I thought they would do pretty well. But also I heard nobody talking about Birds of Paradise, and that was a great set from that year. And I was lucky enough to be able to pick up a good amount of both of those sets. But definitely those Endor Heroes have become some of the sets that I've either gifted away or donated, just because there's some of the duds that you'll end up running into when my diversifying in that year definitely helped me help those lessons not hurt me too much. But there's still lessons that are learned. Zombie stock is something that you're never really able to predict unless something just has a huge supply when it's in its production period, and you just kind of know, like, this might be something that I'm going to be seeing a lot of after it retires. And then not following the crowd, making this business your own, like finding a good plan, a good method that works for you, and then trying to stick with it as much as you can. Like people often say, like, oh, I had a budget for all these sets and I tried to stick with it, but there were just so many good deals and so many opportunities. Like, sometimes those opportunities won't be as good as you think they are, and also sometimes you do have to go for those opportunities. Like one of those sets that I splurged for in my first year was the 40174 chess set, which ended up being my best performing thing, just because, I looked at that on lego.com. I can't remember if it was Black Friday weekend or a weekend after that, but it was like $45. And I looked at Amazon, and I had like a little double take, because Amazon, it was like 150 at that same time. So that was when I filled out my full quantity limit, and I asked friends of mine to order from it. So the budget that went into that shouldn't take away from other things that you are confident in, but you should definitely keep a budget for those spur of the moment things that you do the research that you can for, and make an educated decision. And as long as that decision's educated, I think that's another lesson that I've learned, is having that budget for those, either I wouldn't say gut feelings, but educated gut feelings of sets that you think will do well. And oftentimes those will pay out, sometimes even more than the stuff that you've done research into. Because in the end of the day, the market's always unpredictable.
Yeah, like, and the writing's on the wall sometimes. You don't need to guess when you look at Amazon.
Right, exactly. For example, that set, like, maybe the price would have decreased after people bought it for that price just a little bit, but if people are buying it for 150 on Amazon, and you see it for 45, odds are, even if it decreases in another year, people will probably still be buying it for that same price, because that's just how the market is. People often say, it's crazy. I'll look at these sets that retired a month ago and they're already at this huge price. Like, this can't be real. And I'm like, the number isn't like that because sellers inflated it to that point. It means people were buying it up until it got to that price. So,
yeah.
100%.
And then, like what you mentioned about having a couple of bad picks as well, like, that's the kind of thing that turns people off, right? People would be like, oh, that indoor brickhead set that everyone said was going to be good, it wasn't a good investment, so I'm not going to invest in Lego anymore because Lego investing is done, right? And it always bothers me a little bit, that mentality, because the way that I think about it is that is one of my investments. And yes, there are some zombie stock which, don't retire when you thought that they would, or, little issues like that. But in spite of all of that, in spite of your bad picks, in spite of the zombie stock, in spite of all of that, you double your money in 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, your overall business results are phenomenal. So you need to step back from the individual case. You need to step back from this set or that set, and you need to look at, is my business growing at a rate that is better than other things that I could do with my time and with my money? And I don't know any other investment where I can double it in 2 years reliably like that, right? And so, in spite of those problems, you figured out how to still be super effective at the macro level when you look at the entire business overall. That's what we should be focusing on. That's the important thing. So, your success has been phenomenal to watch. I've loved having you in the Ignite community because you're, super engaged and super active, but also because watching your journey has been so inspiring. And it just makes me feel like, what excuse can anyone have, right? You're 17, you've been doing this while in high school, you've been getting scrappy, figuring out, different marketplaces that make most sense for you to sell on, how to get your sets at the lowest possible prices so you can almost guarantee, never guarantee, but like almost guarantee the chances that you lose money will be extremely low. And you've figured out how to, do this very, very effectively and efficiently. You've made sure to master the game by learning from people who are far ahead of you, joining paid communities where people will teach you these things, and you'll be able to have bots and tools and everything. So it's really inspiring. I think you've been approaching the game in exactly the way that I think we all should be approaching the game. So well done. Huge props to you for everything that you've built so far. What is the future for you? Last quick question. Like, what are you excited about for the future? What do you think when you think, 10 years from now? Is your plan to grow this thing and continue to blow it up?
Well, I mean, I think going into college and stuff, it'll definitely be something that I'm going to have to decide how I'm going to continue. I definitely want to continue it, but depending on where I end up going to school, it might be harder to, move my business over to that new location. I've been considering, finding somebody that I trust to continue the packing and distribute, like the, receiving and distributing part of the business while I continue, the research and purchasing from when I'm in college, having somebody who's able to receive all the packages and process them into my inventory. That's definitely something that I'll decide off of how well I do next year. If I think it's worth having a person, like paying a person to do that. A lot of people talk about getting employees once they're, in the six figures, not once they're, hitting 10 or 15. But I think, like, if it's a way that I can continue getting the experience of doing this once I'm done with college, I'll be able to get to the point where get back to the point where I'm not having to pay somebody. And I think it'll just come to whether I do well enough next year to be able to work paying somebody part-time into my ROI and still be making a good amount of money, which I honestly think I will. I think off of the amount that I've made this year, I think like my returns will definitely take a hit, but I'm definitely open to the idea of expanding that way. And I think that's one of the great things about this is like, and the great things about being in a community like Ignite is being able to see people at so many different levels of their journey and seeing how this builds up, not just like obviously it was a risk to start, but not having every step be a risk, because like you can see evidence of this working at much bigger scales than you are now. So I think crunching the numbers, seeing how I'll be able to further this in the future is definitely my goal. Staying with Ignite, and trying to help other people is definitely another part of what I want to keep doing. Having that community has been very helpful. So I want to try to give back to it. Like seeing new people start, like whether they're my age or they tend to be quite a bit older, like trying to help out, because that's what Ignite did for me when I was new. Just keep working at it, keep making mistakes, learning lessons. I'm excited to see what the future has.
Me too, man. Me too. I'm pumped for you, and I'll be watching for sure, and seeing where you take this thing. Sky's the limit for you. I'm really excited for you. So Noah, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your journey. And hopefully, we can catch up again sometime in the future. I know the audience is going to want to hear more about how big you blow this thing up over the next few years. But thank you so much for being here. Everyone who's watching, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to learn more about Lego investing. We also have a link down below if you want to jump into that community, the BrickBucks Ignite. With that, thank you so much for being here. I'm Shane from brickbucks.net. Make this your year to lift off and be free.